We are streaming and recording.
Alrighty, hello. Welcome to episode 2 of the Spincast. I'm Brian Kellison with Brian White and Lee Zavries, respectively Marblehead 9 and Zavries, and then I'm Brian Kellison, of course. We're going to jump right into it. Don't need for intros anymore. Everyone knows who we are. The Group Ride Masters, right? We wanted to touch on what casual racing and or just casual riding in e-cycling versus competitive and more elite or masters racers, juniors, U23, stuff like that. So casual versus competitive. Let's go around the group with definitions of what that means to the people. So for me, quickly, a competitive is somebody who will jump through the hoops and will train and focus on that sort of thing. It's not a throwaway to do a race. Like they'll have a goal set out to like, hey, this is something I'm going to train for. This is an event that I want to do well in. And they'll do all the things that are necessary to do that. And then a casual rider is like, hey, it's my recovery ride and I'll just jump in a race, or I'll just do a regular workout or something, or I'll do a workout within a race. And so you have these different dynamics. So what do you guys think? Does that sort of sound like what casual versus competitive is?
Yeah, that's kind of how my thought process of it is too. And I consider myself like like casual competitive. I'm a little heavier for my watts to be in the true, like, I guess, super competitive, to where I can compete, but I'm not going to like win any of these elite races. And at this point, I'm not even on a team that has the option of being in an elite race. So I'm doing it for fun. I'm doing it to push myself, and the higher level I may never get to, because I'm getting to the point to where things may be going downhill, but that's kind of where I'm at with that. The casual is just someone who wants to work out, kind of like what you're saying, Brian, almost in the throwaway races. If I don't make the break, if I can't stick it, or I don't make the wheel, okay, I'll just try again tomorrow.
Yeah, that's pretty close to what I would say as well. I'd almost even go further as saying the casual are the guys who just do the standard Zwift races. They're the guys who are not doing ZRL, not doing WTRL, TTTs. They're not part of a team. They may race 3 or 4 times a week, but they're just showing up online going, oh, here's the next race is in 15 minutes. I'm going to do that one. Yeah. To me, that's more of a casual guy where, I did both. I've jumped through the hoops. I'm not anything to be like making awesome, I think I made it to the B's one time, but at the same time, I was on a ZRL team for 5 seasons of ZRL racing every Tuesday, 6 p.m. for weeks and weeks and weeks. Don't let the team down. WTRL, probably done 50 plus, TTTs. Don't do anything now at all. Nationals is coming up in a few months. I'm going to jump through the hoops on that, but I would totally say was competitive and strictly, casual. Actually, not even casual. I don't even race. I haven't gone in an actual official race that's been called a race in so long that I don't even remember when the last one was. But yeah, to me, competitive is you're sort of on the teams. Casual is the guys that are just showing up. Even though they may be A's, it could be A pluses, they could be winning in the A's, but if you're just like randomly picking races, are you competitive? Well, you probably are, but that's a more of the casual side of things.
Right.
Yeah. In like Brian target races, he has a goal, this race I'm training for. Whereas me, a lot of it is, someone, whether it's, someone from our little streaming community or occasionally like a local buddy, he will be in a race. So I'll hop in just to be in with that. I didn't want to race that day. It wasn't what my plan was. It was just, hey, he's on, I'm going to hop in with them. Kind of thing. Like the target events, basically I have one target event a year. And it's our local boys, what they call it, boys in the mountain. It's what their wives gave them to them back in the 80s when they started it. So it's just, anywhere from 5 to 20 people go down to the mountains. That's where I want to be in shape and be like my A race. And it's just basically, us going to the mountains and riding around for 4 or 5 days.
But do you get up for like the Tuesday night race that we did on RGT? Mm-hmm. Like, what do you mentally go through to get up for that? Do you just go, oh, I'm going to do this? Or like when you did that one attack and you stayed away,
yeah,
what mental thing do you do?
That was, I know I can't beat you in a VO2, surge kind of thing. I was like, let's see if I can catch him off guard, because I had an off day on Monday. I didn't ride, so my legs are going to be a little bit fresh. And just time-wise, I had about 45 minutes. So I knew I could get warmed up, hammer out the race, and cool down all within an hour. And I was going to see what I could do. So that night that I did that was the whole plan. Is like, that's going to kind of be my max effort for, I think it was 25 or 27 minutes. And I had a day off, so my legs were a little fresh, a little recovered, and went after it. And at that time, it was just part of having fun and seeing if I could beat, a friend in a race. So,
yeah, no, that's for me. That's also sort of thing is like I get up a little bit for like the smaller races and the Tuesday night. So like I was racing the Tuesday night a lot. That was kind of my regular thing. And then I started to have more of a reputation of being the guy who always would win, right? Because I was stronger than most people that, big fish, small pond, right? But then when I wasn't doing well, or it was tougher, or I was in maybe a bigger training block or something like that, and I was having to push myself because of the competitive side, less casual, but also sort of holding on to this mentality. That's where I think the separation of the casual versus the competitive is. It's easier to throw away some of these throwaway races than it is to hold on to it and go, hey, I want to kind of consistently do like Lee was saying about the ZRL, the ZRL. Those you get up for those for like the Tuesdays, right?
Oh yeah. I was taking pre-workout. I was slathering my body in PR lotion. We had team strategy of like, this is the course tomorrow. What are we going to do? Who's going to go where? Like, to me, that was like competitive. The races where I just show up and go like, I'm here. That's like my casual, race. If I don't put PR lotion on the legs, it's not a competitive race.
Yeah. So the leap to something like, I'll bring it up now, is the Zwift Games, or the trying to, because this is more of what you read on the notes of it, and I don't have it in front of me right now. I should probably bring it up, but it's open to everybody.
Yeah.
So there's going to be there's logistics that are going to have to throw in there. Getting up for that and getting up for like any other qualifier, right?
I am so curious about this.
Yeah, let's get, you can talk about. Let me bring up the thing here. Go ahead.
I know that there's sometimes a struggle with large events, just group rides. All right. How are they going to handle, let's just say, 20,000 people participating in this, or more? You know what I mean? Because you see numbers at one time of 20,000. There could be a total of 60, 80,000 people wanting to do this. Like, they're going to be multiple times. And then we can go down the rabbit hole of verification, later on in this. But like, just if you take everyone up front as, hey, they're being honest, that alone, this number of riders. And the other thing is, sitting here on this podcast right now, we have, I think, 3 different categories. Well, I mean, technically, that's the other thing too. Zwift cat enforcement. Are we doing categories with this or not? Because
so I have the press release or whatever it is from Zwift Insider here. What does it say? Qualifiers will be, as my computer sort of freezes up now. It's open to all riders and with the top finishers progressing to the finals. So that's at least the sprint race. There's the epic, it's like the sprint championship, the epic championship, and then there's another one which I can't remember because my computer's like freezing up. Here it is. It's finally showed up here. Qualifiers will be open to all Zwift riders with the top finishers progressing to the finals, right? Okay. So the speculation is, are you doing pre-verification for everybody going in, which is a logistic nightmare?
Yeah, that's
So
what I mean.
Yeah, so we know that. But then there's pre-verification. So the casual rider is just going to show up and do their thing or whatever it is, whether they have a calibrated thing or all these other things. But they're gonna be a part of the race and maybe influence the outcome.
Right.
Then what do you do? Verify that after the fact. So this is going to be this is great for what we talked about last time, which is like the rebirth. This is definitely focusing on the rebirth of the sport, casual or competitive or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
But Zwift is now seeing like, oh, instead of just letting the UCI World Championships go away to the other thing, they're coming with their own thing, right?
Yeah.
So from a logistic standpoint, what do you guys think?
This could be huge because like we were talking about jumping through hoops. ZRL has 2,000 teams of 6 people.
Yeah.
It is the largest.
Yeah.
So there's already willing to have 12,000 people race and jump through hoops to be on a team. What happens when you say we're going to have this awesome competitive event and there's like no hoops? Like that, there could be 20,000 people in this event.
I'm assuming Brian's probably going to agree with me, but I'm assuming it's going to be you have to have a smart trainer, or at least a
I would
power
hope
meter.
so. I would hope they would be no Z power in this
And heart rate, because somebody was talking about they had to have their heart rate. I was just watching the Don't Get Dropped cycling, and his heart rate wouldn't pair, and then he got booted out of the heart rate enforced event.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I'm super interested because how is this going to play out? Is it going to be an elimination thing as you go through each one of these rides? Are they going to eliminate 5,000 people? Only the top 6,000 move on to round number 2. Is it going to be category enforced?
And I know the chasing tour. I don't know if any of you guys did any of that, but Casey and I did a good bit of that. Okay, so, and I may be wrong, but I know it was timed. Like certain stuff was the general classification. Certain stuff was how you finished. So there would be guys that were racing in the U.S. Eastern time, and then they would switch to the faster. They wouldn't place us all. But they would. So how are we going to? Okay, so if they're going off time or placing, I will say 100%, the European guys. They are much better than the Eastern, the American Eastern guy. Because I raced in the European time zone for ZRL and the time trials, and I've raced in the U.S. East. There's a difference. Those European boys are much better than us. Well,
and those fields are so much bigger, and so that speeds are much higher.
Exactly.
Right, because at least with the old dynamics would have if you had 150 riders versus 25 riders, you're gonna go a lot faster.
So that brings up a very good point. So you have a crappy placing, then do you go, oh well, the next race starts in an hour, I'm going to try that one.
Hey, this happened.
I'm going to try.
Yeah, this happened with the Fondo thing. Remember that thing happened with the Fondo thing and the RGT thing? Remember that?
Well, RGT, the eFondo series, that Suarez one, they actually did it proper because there was segments within the race that actually, or were the only things that counted towards your time.
Yeah.
So you would show up for the race. There was different time zones, but only the segment time counted. So it was easier. So it still wasn't entirely fair because if our time zone had 3,000 people in it, you were drafting through that segment faster than if a guy had 10 people. But it was fair enough for me anyways.
Right.
I just don't like, this is going to be interesting. Like, I am sure the moment they announce what they're doing, people are going to lose their minds, because there's going to be the, wow, this is awesome, or like, are you freaking kidding me? Like,
Yeah.
seriously, Z Power's in, like, you know.
Yes. I don't think Z Power is going to be in, and
No,
I
it
don't.
can't be.
You said, I forget who you said. Oh, Eric Lee, don't get dropped cycling. There have been increasingly more events that require a power meter connected and heart rate, because I joined a jersey unlock thing, and I just turned on Zwift, walked away, and I was literally saw my guy in the pen and went upstairs, because it was like, say, at 4 p.m. and I wasn't going to ride till 8. I'll go back downstairs, and my dude's sitting in downtown Watopia. I'm like, what the heck? And then I found out that event, you have 3 minutes if you lose connection, you have 3 minutes to get it back. So maybe that's going to be the standard, is,
Yeah, and that's sort of now it's started to lean less from the needle is moving from the casual to the competitive, right? And so having a heart rate monitor, which is this sort of like, even goes into the pay to play. It's like you're eliminating people. Like, you just have swaths of people that don't have a heart rate monitor, don't have don't have dual power, but there's money involved. So that's where it's like, hey, these casual races are becoming less interesting and becoming more competitive, because the prize money is getting better, or there is actually prize money, right?
And something one other platform does, IndieVelo, has built-in dual recording that I've been using since whenever I got into the beta, and I have all kind of, whatever it's recorded, they have their own site you go to, you drop your file in, and it's very simple. It's built in. It's simple. Like, I know Zwift has it in Zwift Power, but you got to use your Garmin. Zwift doesn't record dual recording, so I think that's a step that Zwift could do. Okay, maybe for the first 4 rounds, and you get down from.
Oh, let me jump in here. Does Zwift hold on to the fit file that you create on their platform? So every ride is being recorded, right?
You can download your past activities.
Right. Mm-hmm. So they have access to it. So if they wanted to integrate that, they could. I think you did MyWhoosh, and you're like, because MyWhoosh also has dual, right?
But it only records one source.
Yeah, see, that's
I don't know what it does.
IndieVelo records 2 sources, so you get 2 fit files?
No, it's inside the fit file. You have, and the naming is so bizarre, but it's like 26 letters, and then the other one's 28 letters and numbers, and the kicker is single-sided. That's the only way I know which is my Power 2 Max, which has dual recording, or left-right balance, and then the kicker, because when I click on show left-right balance, it's always on, the one that has a little bit less. It's a little bit less than my kicker.
But so let's just think about, if we were going to have, let's say we had 1,000 riders doing the Zwift Games, the first one, which is whatever it is, the Sprint Championship, excuse me. So the one that's the qualifiers. So qualifiers will be open, but the actual Zwift Championship, this is what I'm reading from this. This is what I'm taking back. So the qualifiers to get in is going to be everybody. No verification, no nothing, just whatever you're in. If you are a top finisher, that's probably where the verification will happen. And then you will be allowed into the Zwift Championship. That's what I'm reading. Am I reading it wrong?
No, I think after reading this 17 times now, these Sprint Championship, the Epic Championship, and the Hill Climb Championship, those are the championships for the elites that made it to the finals. The qualifiers. So there could be 20,000 people in the qualifiers that are getting funneled through the qualifiers, and only the elites are getting to these final 3 races. And like you said, maybe at that final stage, now they're having to verify 200 people, and they're going to go down that route. But maybe at 20,000 people, they don't care what anyone's doing. If you win with Z Power, oh well, because eventually, really, the elites are going to be winning this. Like me, I'm going to show up, and I might make it to round 1 of 30. but I'm just doing it for fun. So that's probably what they're expecting is the Z Power dudes are not going to make it. Like they're going to be called out before they make it to round 6 or 7 or 8 or.
But I have a personal experience. So during the summer, there was a Chasing the Yellow, which was an RGT event, right? And it was a GC event, if I remember correctly. It was GC, so it was like timed, and I joined in because I'd been doing whatever, and I race on Tuesdays on RGT, and I was doing a bunch of other things, and I jumped into it, and they hadn't buffed up the servers, right? Now, I think Zwift servers are different than RGT servers, but like RGT was sort of in this transitional phase. We didn't really know what was happening. It was, July or whatever it was. And I wanted to compete. And quote unquote, I'm trying to be a competitive. Obviously, I've done events that made me competitive. So I'm taking this seriously. I get in, they hadn't had the load buffering, and it affected my ability to actually compete. And I got kicked out. Or I didn't get kicked out. I didn't even pedal. Like I couldn't get into the race or something like that, or it was frozen. I can't remember exactly. But if you're doing qualifiers, and I'm somebody who's not just a throwaway, like somebody just, hey, I'm going to show up and see what happens. Or Z Power person shows up and whatever happens. But if it affects my ability to qualify, to then do all the hoops, I'm going to be a little bit more disgruntled, right? And I'm going to have a little bit more issue with it because I'm a person who's taking it seriously and willing to jump through the hoops. So the logistics of this are, I give credit to Zwift actually doing this, and obviously reading it a bunch of times. We don't really know for sure, and that the details haven't fully come out. But it's the Wild West in the qualifiers seems like a good thing, but it's might be causing a little bit more frustration on the actual people that are trying to qualify and that possibly could qualify. And I'm not saying I could qualify, but once you get then the qualifying rounds, or once you get into the thing, that's where the verification is going to happen. But I've had that personal experience where it's not so much throwaway, where you're saying like Z Power can just show up whatever. Well, Z Power is definitely not going to make it, but they might affect the race.
Yeah, that's true. In talk about affecting the race, whenever these occur, the updates within Zwift, they had to be uniform. No races can, because the other day, I had an old version of Zwift on the dirt.
New topic.
And Casey had the new
topic.
And it, like it was on purpose. I knew I had the old version. I knew I was going to be slow in the dirt around the jungle. So we did a tour of Watopia and raced the living shit out of that thing. I died. Everything I could do, chasing Casey. I was 80, just like the Zwift Insider article said, I was 80 watts higher on the descent. Going downhill, 80 more watts. And then going up out of it, like I was already so gassed. Like, I dropped the chain at one point, shifting and everything. So like, it was just a disaster. But that can't happen. That's something, I willingly chose to do that. But it's literally, that's something that they need fixed. Like if you are going to make a game, something that affects the actual game, it needs to be uniform, or don't touch it for this entire Zwift Games. Like if
even
you
the
are going
qualifiers,
to,
though. But even the qualifiers, right? So how far
like
you'd have to go back? It's like
the whole piece of the puzzle. If you want to make a change with dynamics, you almost got to do. I don't know the time frame they're going to run this through, but like basically to make it fair from day one to the end, whatever the dynamics are day one, you don't touch it unless there's something absolutely broken somewhere till the end of this. I don't know, because I was pretty irritated.
Here's the thing: is this goes into the first question, the casual versus the competitive. What about the non-racer? Those people have to wait for features to come out, like people that just want, bug fixes and all these other things. That's the thing. It's like they're doing something that they have to then, hey, we're putting a hold on our Tuesday updates because it doesn't roll out all the way. And so, I don't know, but that's going to be we know as Zwift updates
always breaks something else, you know, even though they phase roll things out, they still something else goes wrong. So
I was
it's
having
almost
issues with my
like
resistance yesterday. I was doing a tour of Watopia, and I was on the old, 152. And I was on the downhill after doing the epic KOM, which is already hard because, you know, I'm a bigger person. So it's like, and then I'm on the descent. I'm like trying to recover. And I'm like, man, the resistance is not, it doesn't feel like I'm going downhill. I felt like I was on the flats. So if you're like, you're saying, hey, you were racing, you guys did science, like it was with science.
Yeah.
And you're having a 80 watt difference. That is a substantial amount of power that you have to extra do to stay with somebody.
Yeah.
And if you're in a qualifier and that's what's happening because it falls on a day where somebody doesn't get the update or somebody's on a device that doesn't have the update yet.
Right.
Oh man.
In general, I mean, it's a quality of life improvement that Zwift needs to do updates on the same day, every day, at the same time. Everyone needs to get the update. I mean, even when the Zwift Play came out, or actually when virtual shifting came out, turns out I couldn't get virtual shifting because I don't have a hub. I didn't get the update till for like 3 days later. I was like on my computer going like force update. There's like a little button where you can be like check for update, check for update, check for update. I was doing that over and over and over again. And I'm like, so I bought the Zwift Play and I don't get virtual shifting for 3 days? Like there's YouTube videos of people reviewing virtual shifting and it says the update's out. Zwift Insider, updates out, everyone. You're all going to get it. And then why don't I get it? Like, come on now. Like you're going to put out an update. Everyone needs to get it.
I agree. And whenever the new roads come out, I was super pissed because I ride Watopia unless there's a jersey unlock or a specific race I'm doing outside of Watopia. 4 years goes by and 11 a.m. on whatever day it was, Thursday, we're flooded, just like you said, YouTube videos and all this, but I can't get it. I don't get it. Like, are you serious? Like, this isn't just, you know, hey, we're fixing bugs rolled out. Okay. So I go, like, people were arguing with me on the Zwift forum.
It's a you thing, Brian. That's what it is.
It is. It's me. It's all me. And like Fortnite, that same week, Fortnite had a big update. My phone, this laptop I'm using, my desktop, the Nintendo Switch, 3 a.m., whatever day it was now, you know, a week ago, boom, all that. So you're telling me that like Fortnite runs on all kind of different devices, except for iOS because they're in a they're not seeing each other right now. But why Zwift that same? Why can't they just, like you said, one day, boom, this is the updates happening? Like, give out to everyone. There's no reason for that.
Imagine if an expansion of a regular video game came out and they were like, yeah, it's out.
Yeah.
You're going to get it when you get it. People would lose their...
Yeah. Well,
no.
Our small community is...
Yeah. And one of the guys arguing with me in the Zwift forums, he was in Shane Miller's stupid video. So, yeah, no wonder he don't care about me getting it. Just be patient. You have the update.
Wasn't that person also saying, or was it a different person maybe, but it was the, you'll forget about it in 6 months. And that really grinded you, I know.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It doesn't matter. It's been 4 years.
Yeah. I'm having issues with Zwift Play right now. And I'm having issues, and I know when I first had issues, I was very frustrated. Now that I know that I'm a beta tester, paid beta tester, pay to play, baby, pay to be a beta tester.
Mine have worked awesome.
Yeah, I know. Everyone else's works great. Mine, my second one is always delayed. Whichever one connects second is delayed. And so, that's another thing. But this
the left one.
No, I do. I do right first because it either or. It didn't say in the actual FAQ where they're like, hey, it just says launch Zwift in the pairing screen. Do the one. I know we're getting in the weeds here. Do one. It goes to the battery sign, or you see the battery. It's fully charged. Then you do the second one. The second one, whether I do right or left first, the second one is always delayed. But that brings up a point for this Zwift Championship. And even the casual competitive, right? You have casual people that like all the ride-ons and they taking the screenshot and all these buttons. I would like to be able to use the steering / positioning for virtual shifting for these qualifiers, right? And
I think
that's
it
the
has
thing.
to be. It's got to be engaged, enabled. Like you can't have a device that you're selling for a year by then, it'd be 8 months by then, and not use it.
Yeah.
And I'll stand by this because I've argued this on forums. It's not as game changer as people have said it is. I come 50th in the D division. I might come 47th because I can steer. Really?
Yeah,
maybe,
no,
maybe not.
I
You're
agree.
not all of a sudden going to win, and you're not going to get the elite person who wins this championship is probably not going to have steering, and they're still probably going to win.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just thought of another thing. So go ahead, Brian. Go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just agreeing. Like this steering, I don't know when steering actually became enabled, but like I've done in several races and guys weaving all over the place. There's only been one race that I've been in that steering actually gave a guy an advantage. When it seems like when we're in a pack, steering guys just, move through the pack. I was on a breakaway with the A group and I couldn't hang because I think they were kind of irritated that B was hanging with them. It was in a 3R race. So they attacked the living crap out of this little kicker and I couldn't go with them. So A come up behind me. He got on my wheel, rested for a few minutes, and then he moved all the way to the side. He attacked, you know what I mean? And I was literally out of his draft. That's the one time in however many months now steering's been a thing to where I've seen it actually have a benefit. So I think in most races, it's not going to be a truly big thing, but certain things like on the Alp, it may shave off a little distance if you're cutting corners. In that breakaway situation where, he caught me and then, he attacked me to get by me, that is a situation to where it may play effect in racing. And I agree, it should be there. I don't have it.
I love it.
But I think it should be there.
I think it should be there. Yeah. I like the devices, even though I have issues right now. I like the devices. Period. I like them. I recommended them to people. There's two things that happen. One, you actually do get a little bit of advantage because the distance is shorter. You're cutting the corner because whatever. At least that's what the Strava file after whatever Eric Schlange from Zwift Insider did. Didn't he do? He did like a Strava comparison, and you gain distance. Yes, is that correct?
On the Alp, right?
I don't want to claim something that it doesn't exist. Like the positioning. Yeah, we should confirm. So we'll figure that out. But the second thing is I've noticed this since I've had him for like 2 weeks now, or whenever I got him. Because I raced group ride, whatever, Tour Watopia, and you know, if you're in the front group, you just pretend it's a race. I'm mentally wanting to get that tighter line. I was racing in our lead group. It was probably 5, 6 people that were in the decisive main lead group, right? Going up the epic KOM and then eventually through the jungle and all these other things. But you actually have whether it's placebo or it actually. I decided not to because of the other competitors didn't have it. It wasn't just like, I don't care, I'm going to just forcibly not do the steering. But when I'm going hard, I feel better about going hard if I can take the corner tighter. Like it's a mental advantage as well as a physical advantage. Does that make sense? So
mental plays a huge piece of the pie.
Yeah, and I'm like, hey, I don't want to be behind this person. I want to position over, like when you're saying, like Brian was saying, like you're in the group, and you're like, hey, it doesn't really gain you advantage. Yeah, I'm not about gaining advantage, but you're gaining a mental advantage of like, hey, I'm not just off to the side. I actually want to get on this person's wheel. Or there's 2 people lined up because the algorithm is setting it up so that they're just kind of in the draft, and there's like 2 or 3 people up in the front that are sort of the spear of the tip of the spearhead of the draft. And you can slide right between those 2 to get on the third wheel of the 2 that are kind of just sitting there doing nothing, right? That's like mentally stimulating and or helping you feel like you're more engaged. And then there's times where you're just going so hard you don't care about it. But that's where I think it's starting to separate from being just, oh, it's just gaining an advantage. But like, hey, when you're at an effort and you can dive a corner tighter, like, I don't know if people have seen me do my races. That one that we did, Brian, remember the Don't Get Dropped Eric Lease videos?
Yeah.
Where I was in the break, I went ahead, I did my attack, and then you kind of sat in, and I was cutting every corner, and I think I gained like 2 seconds on you guys.
Yeah.
Because I was actually taking the proper apex. That was when there was no delay on the controller. But those things lead into my next question: is what about the qualifiers allow people that have a Zwift hub that are physically fit and physically strong, and they use a hub that's a little bit different in its accuracy for a more competitive / non-casual event? You hey, I've gone into this thing, and hey, I show up and like I'm new to Zwift and I bought a hub because of the benefits that they offer, the virtual shifting, the blah blah blah. And now you're faced with, well, the device that you're using to move forward needs to be verified in a way. Can they verify something that's less accurate? That's my question.
That's a good one. I think for the Zwift, to go back to the Zwift play stuff for steering, I think the only time I've ever noticed, which is not really a huge advantage, like you say, it is the odd time when you're riding in a group and Zwift for no reason boots you off the side of the group.
Right, yeah.
And then your guy never ever goes off the side of the road. You're riding and 3 kilometers goes by and your guy's still riding on the curb and he hasn't shifted back into the group. Where with steering, you can be like, what the heck was that? Back in the group. And you force your way in. Yeah. And, that could be called an advantage because technically the algorithm said, we want you out here.
I was looking at the steering distances.
Oh, okay.
That's kind of what I was reading to the
Dramatic
only
pause.
Yeah, the quickest one I could find was it was from the steers though, so not the plays, but maybe the same principle. I don't know if they've changed the steering.
I think maybe you did with the steers though. Yeah, maybe we haven't done it with the play. Maybe there needs to be some more science. I have both, so I could probably do it.
On the Alp, it was no steering Zwift's line, 40.4 kilometers. He must have did 2 reps of it. And then steering in the best cut in the corners was 39.8. So what is that? 600 meters difference. And then taking the outside line was 40.9. So
that's a lot. If you're in a sprint and you're like, hey, I got to sprint, 600
if
meters.
you are in a race up the Alp or anything else that has any kind of turns, and you can cut those corners away from the regular non-steering guy, that is going to make a difference. And it's a benefit for the racing. It's a tactical effort. Like if I don't have it, I know I got to go a little bit harder to keep up with Brian or Lee who have it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think if you're like placing top 10 in races, 600 meters is a big difference.
Yeah.
And I think the Alp is probably the most extreme example because it's 21 perfect hairpin turns where you're probably going to see the most, but if you're paying attention in every other race. And then the side argument to that is if you were on a regular race and you cut the corner, now you're out of the draft. Does cutting the corner and getting 3 meters, is that a benefit? Or is, if you're out of the draft, losing the draft, is that more like what weighs more than that?
Go ahead. Finish your
because you might cut the corner, gain a meter. Now you got to push your way back in. So it's.
And if we're going with what Brian likes is like the simulation of riding outside. If I take a bad line, that's me. If Brian takes a better line, that's him. So that's getting closer to, the actual skill per se. Maybe it's just clicking a button, but if you could do that, you could put yourself in the best position for that race.
Yeah.
So that's a little piece of the puzzle too.
And
you can't steer when you're in a pack. Ever tried that? If you're in the middle of a pack,
you collide. There's
not moving.
There's hitboxes. Yeah, there's hitboxes. You can move around here and there, but there's a collision. There's a hitbox, right? You can't just go. You can't
Either
fade.
you go off the front and move your way through the pack, or you go off the back and steer.
Steer
Like
out
if you're in the middle of the group, you're kind of, which then leads to strategy. Do you strategically position yourself on the outskirts of the pack all the time so you can move, or do you just say Zwift gods, just send me where you want and I will ride in the pack?
And so here's the thing: is some people that maybe don't race outside or don't ride outside with groups. I'm always moving when I'm doing a race and I'm in a group or even in a group ride. I'm always giving myself an out. Right, so I'm always trying to be on the fringes of the group, so I'm not trapped in, like three people on my left and right. I want to be able to go into the dirt and go over the bars if I have to crash, instead of going over somebody that's crashed in front of me or right next to me. Right, there is some mentality to that, because not that this is coming into play yet. I think in the future, when positioning / steering becomes more prevalent across the competitive side of the racing, is if you could set up inside, like RGT, like there was blocking and you would collide with people. You couldn't just ride through people when they had the steering. It was mandatory, right? But if I was in the right-hand lane and I knew that the last corner was right-handed, and I'm in my lane and nobody can take that line, that's setting me up so that I could have coming out of that corner at the tightest thing, and then have less distance to the sprint. That is an advantage. If you're furthest over, instead of just letting it happen, you left the Zwift gods or whoever, like Zwift algorithm, do it. That's one thing. But when everyone gets it, and then you're fighting for position, you're like, oh, this, it's going to be more fun for me because there's not going to be crashing, right? And I don't want I personally don't want crashing in online, any race, any cycling or whatever. I just don't want it. I've seen it in other games, and I understand the approach to it. I just don't like it. I think the collision and blocking people is better, but it needed to be hybrid versus the mandatory getting blocked. And I think that was solved by RGT with the auto avoidance, like turning on auto avoidance. You could ride around somebody if there was ability to ride around somebody. But with Zwift, the difference is not everyone is in the right position, right? So when we had the concertina effect and everyone was strung out in a corner, and the old RGT physics before the steering, there was places where you would only be allowed to go. You couldn't just ride through people. You had to either go harder or let off the gas so you could fall back. Right. And so it's exciting for me if it's done correctly. And so hopefully they are thinking about these things in depth as we are talking about it.
I think it'll be super interesting when you have 100 people in a pack, all with steering, all diving for the same turn.
Yeah.
That's when things will get interesting, because who gets to take that turn? Because there will be collision. So the entire group is going to shift to the turn, but they're going to be hitting people. So, I mean, the group will move as a group, but people are not going to be getting perfect lines, what they think they're getting, because, and then how much complaining, I have steering and I couldn't dive for the inside line. Like it's,
and there's a lot of arguments for in other places, right? So Indy Velo and other formerly RGT and about mandatory, like people like, oh, you have positioning. Well, I want the game to give me the best line. I do not want that. I want you to you're given whatever you're given. And if you do something, like maybe it's delayed to get the best line, like you have to go harder. You have to burn a match. You have to spend something to get something automatically from the game. But if you have steering / positioning, you can do that faster, and you can you override whatever the algorithm is going to give you, right? We're getting in the weeds now. This is good though. I like it. I still have that question out there about the Zwift Hub and all the other trainers in the qualifiers. Can they be certified or verified to move into this sort of Zwift?
I don't remember what event, but there was it wasn't live event, but it was like one of the ones where you had to be streaming, you had to be everything. They sent a Garmin to the people. It was verified, whatever. They sent it to them. So I think if they've done that in the past, I don't think they're going to do it for this community event, because I'm pretty sure that was a UCI event that they did it for. But with that being said, that is the level that they're going to take to be truly verified. But if they're just doing this community event where everyone can go, it's going to be kind of hard to say, hey, our trainer that you bought from Zwift, isn't worthy. And I think there's another one that is not allowed in like elite level competition.
It's like the Elite Doretto or something. One of those. Yeah, there was always like a Hammer H1, because I've heard from other podcasts and other people like the H1 with like old firmware, because people hold on to old firmware when it was messed up. Yeah. I think it was like I got to give credit where credit is due. It was the Nowhere Fast podcast. I think I was listening to somebody, and they were talking about the Ceres, like one of the original firmwares, and this guy was like he's a CPA. He races, I think, for Next or somebody. He's like one of the top guys. And he was saying that like doing the due diligence of like verification is essential, right? And people hold on to the wrong firmware. And that's the thing, is like there's people that are malicious that will do it. And there's people that are just like, they just don't know. They just don't know. They don't care and whatever. And so
it worked out of the box and I'm happy.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, I'm good. I didn't know there's firmware. Like me, I get frustrated with the companion app, so I never launch the companion app. And everyone tells me, turn on the companion app, you'll get all this stuff. And I'm like, I know that sometimes I should be using the companion app, but sometimes it fails, and that's why I get frustrated. So I think it's a good thing, but I think it's hopefully going to be a good for everybody experience. But I can just see I don't want to be negative town as much as I love being negative town. Well, the Zwift backend, the Zwift verification, and maybe that's Indy Velo is also the consultants for this.
Yeah,
are gonna have a lot going on. They're gonna have a lot going on.
I think leading up to the qualifiers, I don't think it's such a big deal. I mean, all the trainers have a different percentage. They're all darn close. I think the Zwift Hub's 2.5. The Wahoos. But the thing is, the Wahoos are 1, but you never know if your trainer is what direction it is. It could be 1 in the bad way, or it could be 1 in the highway. You never know. Plus or minus can go either way. But I think if you have one trainer that's plus or minus 2.5 and one's plus or minus 1, that's close enough. Like we're talking like a few wattage here or there. That's not a big deal. I think once you get to the finals, then maybe you want to be like, everyone needs to be on, like what they were doing before, a kicker V6, everyone gets a V6, and it's got to be hardwired and plugged in, and we verify that it's plugged in, but that's the elites for the money. When for qualifiers, I don't really, personally too, I don't care if a guy's an older trainer that might be plus or minus 4%.
Yeah. Right. But my question is somebody who's invested in the game, invested in the hardware to do the game, and they happily joined this thing because they're casual at the beginning, or they're serious, doesn't matter, and they now are like interested in doing it, and they've invested, and that investment is not allowed.
That's a little tough, but that's on the organizers, especially if there's money involved. But I mean, I would be annoyed.
Well, of course.
At the same time, am I going to go to the elite level? So my annoyance might be a little bit less, because I'm at the type of, I'm like, well, I'm not going to win anyways, so they're not letting me race.
Annoyed as the person who invested in the hub or whatever trainer that you invested in, or annoyed as being another competitor and somebody who has a hub is allowed in.
I think I'd be annoyed if I owned a hub and they didn't let me in just because it's a Zwift branded thing. So it's like,
Yes,
so what
yes,
you're
yes, yes,
saying, it's it's Zwift branded. I think if they said, oh, you can't race on Hammer H1s because they're now 9 years old and they're super easy to hack.
Yeah.
Well, you might be annoyed, but if I'm riding a 9-year-old H1, maybe I bought it used for $200. It's
Yeah. Okay. What do you think, Brian?
Yeah. Well, I mean, like you're talking about the trainers themselves. I watched one of our, A+ guys doing a SOTA test, and it came out to where his kicker was 15 watts higher or something. And because of whatever event he was doing that he needed to do that, they said, yeah, use the kicker because you have to have your kicker, your trainer, paired to the game, and then your backup. So like that was built in. Like he's already like over 400 watt FTP, and then you're giving him another 15. So like that there's even built within the system. It's like, everything on his end was
Yeah,
with the kicker.
Yeah. No,
But-
because I have a kicker and I had a Stages power meter.
Yeah.
And for the longest time, this is whatever, like 3 years ago, 2020. I casually raced, whatever, and had a kicker that was malfunctioning, or like the belt was wrong, and I didn't know it. So it was like 20 watts less than my Stages. But so I would race on the Stages and dual record. It wasn't mandatory to do that. I was just doing that on my own. And then I was like, man, there's making this noise. So that's the thing is like what the organizers say is you got to go by that, right? And then the burden is on the organizers to verify it. So, yeah, I think we've come to the conclusion as I want to get this last topic in, but the conclusion is it's going to be a mess, but awesome and amazing at the same amazing, right?
When does it start?
It's
When does that
amazing.
start?
They said the
When does
new
it
year,
start?
February.
Oh, yeah, February.
All right.
So-
Because there's a possibility I might get downgraded to a C at that point. And if they're doing by categories,
Here
I
it
So it
might
says
be
the
able to-
qualification
Let's see
races will take place in late February 2024.
yeah. So I hope to be back to riding by then. But
You will be.
yeah.
Brian's. So for people that don't know, Brian's getting a new knee. Technically, Brian Marblehead is been
Bionic.
living his life for the last 15 years with like no knee cartilage or
Yeah.
whatever you have.
Yeah. It was 16 years old when I had the injury, and surgery to fix a simple meniscus tear went terribly wrong, and ended up. I'll make the story short. If anyone wants, they can ask me on stream, or they may have heard it before. But basically, for 23 years now, I've had a torn ACL, a muscle removed from my left leg. So I only have three quad muscles in my left leg.
How are you so fast still?
I know. That's what I'm wondering.
Yeah. And the meniscus, like the inside one, that was damaged with the staph infection. That was the big issue. And then the other one was still there, but it's just ground away and it's down. I got bone on bone. The doctor at the time said by the time I was 27, I had to have a knee replacement. And I've lived on 12 years of borrowed time now. So now it's affecting, like, I could barely stand up for more than 5 minutes without some serious pain.
Yeah,
so.
and then he did 80 extra watts to compete with Casey Shum.
Yeah.
CS Tri-X, everybody. So he did,
that
he
was,
did more in the dirt as science for the science project that is Zwift.
Yeah, and pissed off the wife in effect too, because she had plans of me helping out, and I was like, "Listen, I've been outside working all day. I'm getting a bike ride in, and we're doing science." She said,
There you
"Oh
go.
my god!"
Yeah.
But hey, it was worth it. It was a fun ride, and we got all the leaves cleaned up outside. What can be better?
So that perfect segue. He hopefully will be downgraded to C, maybe D. Then you can win the D's
Yeah,
with his new knee.
Join me in the D's.
Yeah, right. So he's going to be coming back from that. But now, MyWhoosh has announced, I think it was today, wasn't it? It was today or yesterday?
it might have been yesterday evening.
Yeah, it came in, whatever. It came in some UTC plus or minus 10 or 15 or 4. MyWhoosh, the UCI virtual or whatever they're calling it, esports, we're just going to go with the UCI esports world championships, have been moved to October of 2024. And that is big news because that is giving not only the competitors more time, the national qualifying, however they want to do it, more time, but it's also given the game more time. Yeah. And so I'm going to go to Brian real quick because Brian just recently did it, and I know there's some hurdles and stuff, but what's the biggest thing that they need to fix from your perspective?
Well, I got kind of main issue before I jump into the game issues.
Okay.
So I have a pretty decent computer at home, and it is just above the minimum specs. Like the minimum specs to run it on a PC are insane. So I think that's going to be an issue with people showing up with this kind of potato-ish laptop I'm using now. And like anyone who uses Zwift, they want it to work. They don't care what it is. Integrated graphics from 15 years old, they want it to work. So you're going to get MyWhoosh, and you're going to have to screencast it off your phone, which might be a worse version. Or you got the specs, or?
No. Oh. Yeah, let me jump in real quick.
Go.
Email came today, 7 hours ago. Okay. The first thing is Everest challenge, but sneak peek into our next update. So the next update came out today, now supporting lower end iOS devices. Now I don't know if that supports lower PC devices.
iOS meaning Apple TVs?
Apple devices, which they've been working on a lot of the Apple TV stuff. They've been trying a lot of people have been asking the Apple TV stuff. So I don't know. And you continue your thought, but I'm saying that they did actually release, I don't know if you got that email.
I didn't. If I did, I didn't check my personal email.
So they are trying to support more devices. Go ahead. Okay.
Because when I looked at that, I was like, wow, this is going to eliminate a lot of people right off the bat. Because if you can't use, kind of what you have sitting around, you have to have an actual gaming PC, a higher end gaming PC. A lot of people are out the window. But I don't know. If they did that, then that's going to make it a lot better, because I know a lot of people will use the Apple TV and
Apple TV, iPads. So, most people. Yeah. I actually had to do. I had to do the Power Passport test on my iPhone, which was not fun. Only because my PC, my main gaming PC that I do more Bluetooth, it was down. I had a bad power supply, so my other PC didn't have Bluetooth, and so I couldn't do the dual power. It couldn't pick up my power pedals for the dual power. But I digress. What's the second thing you were saying?
Okay, so everyone loves to complain about pack dynamics with Zwift, and we are now in a good spot. I love where we're at. I hope we never digress too far from this. But if you were a seasoned Zwifter, you remember the washing machine effect in the draft, where you'd be to the front, to the back, to the front, to the back. The MyWhoosh draft dynamics might be the toughest I've ever experienced on an online cycling program. It is, I want to say it was at least 45 minutes of me doing my bunch ride, kind of like a bot ride that they have 6 groups at
it's like
different paces.
It's like pace bots, and they group up in 5 to 6 of just locked wattage output.
I was trying to draft on the 4.5 watt per kilogram guys, and I'd go from getting dropped to out the front, off the back, out the front, it was nonstop. It was 45 minutes before I could. And then I did I wanted to do a race with humans. So I picked what I thought was going to had people. I was solo, no one else there. And it was around this little city circuit. It had this 2 kind of a ramped kicker. It might have only been 200 meters long, but in the middle of it, it leveled off, and then to the top, it dropped straight down to start finish. There's a 3-second delay in the power. Yeah. So I'm in game at 400-ish watts, but I'm pedaling at 250. And then I get to where it ramps up again. I'm got 200 watts, 250 watts, whatever it was in game. And I'm pedaling like crazy because visually I want to ride up this hill. I'm at the hill. And then boom, all of a sudden the grade kicks in and my power ramps up. I get to the top, to the banner for that little segment, and I have no resistance. I'm at 100 watts, and I'm still like at that point, like, 450 watts. So there's some very funky dynamics, and that could be the reason that I was experiencing that surging with the trying to draft, because I see me getting dropped. I put the power down, and then I zoom way past it because I overcompensate.
That's what happens.
So them moving that is a good step for them, because personally, if this happened in February, I don't know how quick they are with adjusting things. I think it'd be a disaster. But if they have another, what was it, 8 months to sort things out and get things kind of in line with their dynamics, I think it's a good move. And the other thing is, MyWhoosh, the environments, the worlds are really good. I do like the worlds. They blow Zwifts the size of them out, because I don't like the small loopy worlds. It's one reason why I didn't gravitate towards RGT. But there's a 100-kilometer route, and I don't even know, like some Middle East, I think it was Abu Dhabi, 100-kilometer route, and you don't loop over yourself. You go up a climb, you come down. Okay, so you go up a climb and come down. You garage another one, up it, down it, and then round the city. That's 100 kilometers with 2 climbs. And it's not like Zwift where one of the whatever the hell Uber pretzels where you're all over the whole thing, 5 times. So MyWhoosh has a lot of benefits, but they got a lot of work to do too.
What do you think, Lee? Have you done MyWhoosh?
I did it very early on when it was sort of first announced. I haven't really ridden it since, because I felt the same thing was weird. And I mean, I feel that I'm decent at easing into the draft and holding the draft. And, I think I'm decent at TTTs where I can get my position by soft pedaling. And I found it impossible. Yeah. Like, you really pretty much just rode what you rode and didn't worry about where you were, who you were drafting. You just rode. Now I'm wondering though, like past world championships, they would send all the competitors a trainer. Maybe are they going to be sending them a gaming laptop at the same time, so all the competitors are on?
So here's the thing:
trainer, same laptop, same, is.
I think the event is going to be in person in October.
Or that it might have to be in person, because that would be a huge issue.
I think that was part of the announcement. I think it was on site. Didn't I send it to you guys? It was on Cycling News.
Yeah, you did. I think you're right. I was trying to pull it up.
I got it here.
I think it's going to be a 40-person live event.
All right, who wants to read it? Somebody can read it. I can read it. I got it right here. I got it.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Go ahead.
Esports World Championships move to October with 40 rider finals in Abu Dhabi. All right. So new MyWhoosh. This is cyclingnews.com. New MyWhoosh qualification pathways and in-person race format to be revealed in early 2024. So they're going to release more stuff, but I guess like the main takeaway is in the Abu Dhabi will host the 2024 UCI Urban Cycling World Championships. And so, where is it? MyWhoosh sponsor. No, wait, where is it?
Well, actually, while you find that, Brian, I was going to say, I do actually appreciate the World Championships being at the end of the year.
Yeah.
Cycling and esports in general seems to do it stupid. Well, I shouldn't say stupid, but no one crowns the world champion at the beginning of a season. Like, no sports. Like, you don't say, we're going to hold the World Series in January. We're going to crown the World Series champion, and then we're going to play the season after that. The riding season starts in that's the year. Like, it makes no sense to be like, you're the world champ, and it's like a month into the riding season.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't make any sense.
Exactly. So here's the takeaway from the Cycling News. This is their, we're citing Cycling News, right? So they said no explanation was given for the change in date. Okay. This is their reporting. The February date favored athletes who trained and raced indoors during the European winter, but failed to attract many of the best professional cyclists. So is this a way to get pros to be part of it? Yeah.
So they had to move it so it wasn't during their pro season, which starts to ramp up early in the spring. They pretty much had to pick a time where it was like the pros are like, oh, I'm done all of the world tours.
Yeah.
Hey, look at this MyWhoosh race next month. I'm peaked. I'm peaked for this. Perfect.
Yeah. And there's a lot of teams that won't allow riders to peak for a virtual thing.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
so
gosh,
like,
no.
you're like, dude, this is your time to be off the bike. We're going to peak. You're going to peak for Milan San Remo or
And
the Spring Classics. And it's like,
it's also early enough in the off season that they can do this and still have a month or two off to ease back into before next season. Like if they made this December, or you still wouldn't get the pros because it'd be like, I'm not doing a hard-assed effort in December. Like I need to wind down.
Yeah.
so it also takes away from the more pure e-cycling riders, right? It's going to make it tougher for them. So like the specialists, like the Lionel Villas and James Barnes, what's his name? Asgard, is that his name? Asgo?
And if you don't
Lowe's Adegest, who's the back-to-back Netherlands, and Bjorn Andresen. Bjorn Andersen, the two that are current esports titleists or champions right now.
Yeah, because that guy rode in Zwift twice. He had one Zwift power.
Right.
But at the same time, if you're not a esports specialist, does pack dynamics matter?
See, that's the
Probably
thing. It goes back to this casual versus competitive, where you have professionals that have the ability, but they're casual e-cyclists. Like they don't go in, they don't learn the pack dynamics, they don't learn the new format from like last year, where like they had the sprint challenge, it had the climb, and then it had the other thing, and then it even goes back to that RGT from 2022, the Canadian one that's super awesome. Matt Usborne, who was in that game all the time, he would race in the Echelon Racing League, and he timed his 200 meters, the final 200 meters in that race, to beat Thom Thrall for the Canadian National Championship, because he knew he did the recon on RGT. He didn't come over just directly from Zwift. Now, we don't know if Thrall, I never have talked to Thrall. It would be great to have him on the show if we could, to get that breakdown. I'd love to get Usborne on here just to talk about that race. But I think this spices it up even more, which is a good thing, along with they need more time to make the game better and get the logistics of like, hey, we're going to do it on site. It's going to be, it's sponsored by Elite. It's sponsored by Wahoo. I believe it's sponsored by Wahoo. So I think they're going to do all Wahoo, because UCI and Wahoo they still sponsor the UCI, right? So it's probably going to be all Wahoo, but it might be on MyWhoosh. Doesn't matter. It has to be.
Well, I think the V6s give them the most options to connect to stuff. So it's probably the easiest.
If you have an arena in Abu Dhabi that's cooled properly, everyone has the same facilities, everyone has the same thing, and they do it in like a velodrome or someplace, and everyone's on the same thing, all the same stuff, and it's just people's racecraft and their physical abilities. I think it's going to make it for a really cool thing, and if you can get through all that, that'd be great. Now, and Zwift is competing with their own event, but their event is going to be in February, so it's going to be way which is cool.
Because MyWhoosh is server side though, so
MyWhoosh is server side.
They have that going for themselves for as far as spectator sport.
Yeah, and if you've ever seen any of the broadcasts from the MyWhoosh Sunday Race Club, they do the men's and women's races. I've competed in it. I've watched some of the rebroadcasts. Their broadcast is very good, and that's the sort of thing, is we don't really know who the broadcasters are. I know Echelon Racing League has partnered with Zwift Community Live, which is Nathan Guerra and Dave Toll. Mm. So the broadcasters are still trying to figure out what to do. Like, hey, are you covering this? And how to cover it? Is it going to be the great stories of the riders, or like, hey, hey, there's a lot of pros that are not doing the pro road race, but they're going to do the pro esports because they're like the Matt Usborns of the world and the James Barnes of the world, because what's his name? The guys that are competing in the outdoor road race are not doing it. And so you have these I think this is a good thing. It's good in both ways, like I said.
We actually have a question about server side. So
who's the question from, Lee?
Alan Lowe, he says, can you explain server side for the viewers?
There you go.
So basically what it is server side means the game runs on the servers itself. It's running remotely on the servers, which is pretty much every major video game, any first-person shooter, World of Warcraft, any MMO type game is almost always run server side because it's a controlled environment where you're not relying on people's crappy connections. You're doing all the calculations on the server. Zwift runs client side, so the game runs on your system. It's your system now, your home PC is telling the Zwift servers what you're doing. So you have a whole bunch of people telling Zwift at different times what's going on, and Zwift is trying to calculate it. So, you know, BK is sending a signal to Zwift. Zwift is going, oh, BK is here on the road. Zwift server says, hey, Lee's computer, this is where BK is. But by the time Zwift has sent it, you know, we're only talking milliseconds, but by the time Zwift has sent it to me, BK has moved again. So it's this constant back and forth. So, and that leads to errors. Brian has done tons of video comparison of what you see in Zwift is not what I see in Zwift. It happened, Zwift got egg on their face at the last Singapore Olympic trials because everyone was celebrating a team sprint win and they went, whoa, wait a sec, that wasn't actually a win. So server side is almost exact. RGT was server side, IndieVelo is server side. What you see is within
what everyone sees
within milliseconds. Like I could raise my hand, and in the game, my hand is being raised. Everyone sees it at the exact same time. In Zwift, it's going,
yeah.
And there you go. There was the hand.
From what I understand too, is if you have low frames per second, your system, your latency is based on your ping, right? So whatever you're sending to the server is coming back. So if you have on a server-sided game, if you have low frame rates, it's not affecting everyone else on their side. So what you're seeing, you just have to get more frames per second. You have to lower your resolution, but it's not affecting everyone else. Where in Zwift, to help compound their issue, I don't remember the origin of their decision making on building it that way. You would have tons of riders in a group ride, and it wouldn't render everything because it wasn't as strong enough on your computer or your device, but your position was different than everyone else. Because I remember doing a race and telling my teammate, hey, you know, like a team time trial or whatever, and he's coming on the right, and he's like, oh, on my system, I'm coming on the left, and so that's where I went into the deep dive. But that's
exponential. It makes a huge difference if you have 5 streamers all streaming at the same TTT. Yeah. It's hilarious because it's like one guy here on one person's screen. Everyone's in perfect order, and they're like, "Wow, awesome line!" And they're like, "Well, no, I'm over here." Yeah. The only place that I can see a benefit of client side is for the casual rider. If I have an internet disconnection, I can still keep riding in Zwift, and it will still save my ride. In server side, if you have an internet disconnection, your ride's done.
Yeah, you're gone. It's mechanical.
In modern times,
and that happens, that's the thing. I totally agree. Is I've had races where I've had a disconnect, or I've had a system freeze. The race still goes on. I'd have to then reconnect, and I got dropped from the group. It's tough. It's like getting a flat tire. To me, it's like getting a flat tire. So to help alleviate that, I'm for more of a server side, because that's where if you see, like if I see Brian or I see Lee attack, I want to see them attack, and so I can chase their wheel or do whatever I want to do.
Well, they're attacking in real time, not maybe a second later.
Right. And that's the sort of thing, is having it at one location, which also, and James Barnes was bringing this up on his stream. I was watching it the other day, and some nationalities might not have the budget for esports to send them to Abu Dhabi, or to send that. So it'll be self-supported. It's like, if you qualify, now is like, can you even make it to that event, which is going to be tough. It's super tough if you qualify for that.
I read something. I think it's the U.S. national team, the selection. There's something about different levels of funding, and I can't remember the details, but it was self-funded, semi-funded, and full funded. I don't know if I can find it real quick, but there is that aspect of the cost aspect. You may be able to qualify, but can you get there? Because let's just say some miracle I get to go to Abu Dhabi. There is no way I could afford. I don't think I could afford to do that. You know what I mean? On my own.
Yeah. Let's see. We've been going for about an hour and 15. Do we want to take another question if there's any questions, or do we want to wrap this up? Any questions, Lee?
I don't have any questions.
All right.
There's no questions in chat. Just
we're too good.
Actually, answered all.
We answered all facets. I think it's good. This is a good time. About an hour and 15. I think we're good. Any final thoughts? What did we learn?
There's lots of room for improvement in many aspects of all of this e-cycling, and I think we're all the companies are still learning on what direction to go, and it's good times to be involved in this because it's really interesting.
I can't find what I was looking at. I was trying to find the article about the funding for
I know, because I know there was a thing with like Canadian Olympic funding, the same thing where there was different levels of funding, where it was like, if you have a chance for, you were the national champ and there's a potential you're going to win gold, it was like full ride.
Oh yeah.
But if you were like in some obscure sport that you may come 50th, they're kind of like, well, you get $1,000 or we'll get you your plane ticket there. And maybe
age group 45 to 49 masters.
But I was fifth. I'm fifth.
You're fifth. Hey, you're 4 spots less than me.
Yeah, and, exactly. Only 4.
What I learned is it was the right call for us to say rebirth with all these announcements this week. Come on, we gotta give credit.
It was.
It wasn't the death of the sport; it's the rebirth. It's like the phoenix rising from the ashes. If you know your pumped.
I think this year with Zwift. Not only the Zwift Games, but the National Championship and what's the other one? MyWhoosh. I think this year kind of will form how things go forward. I think it's going to be a big either step forward or egg in our face.
We got the U.S. Nationals in January, the Canadian Nationals early February, and the Canadian Nationals goes right into the Zwift Games, and the Canadians also, Cycling Canada, not just the Canadians, Cycling Canada. Correct me if I'm wrong, Lee. They're using MyWhoosh for their selections. Yes. So those are also going to be qualifiers for their selection process for the now pushed to October UCI World Championships. So there's going to be a lot of qualifying. Yeah, and I could see a lot, and I think after the first of the year, I bet you a lot of other nations will start to announce that more and more. I'm super interested to see, because they've moved it to October with the qualifiers, what kind of quality you get. I mean, Canada, you could have a Michael Woods, the esports world champion. Is it Derek G? Isn't that the new? Or Hugo Huel? Yeah, those guys. You know, potentially that's the end of the season for them. You could get some serious names at this. Yeah, and which at the same time is also sad for the guys who've been, you know, the James Barnes and that, where, you know, we've kind of, esports have grown and we've all grown to watch them and get to the position that they're at. And it would be a shame to have those guys spotlight diminished by a one-off World Tour pro showing up and just mopping.
The last thought on that is it's a different competition. It could be a different competition. I don't know what it is. I don't know what the
I'll
format
say
is.
this.
Go ahead.
In rebuttal to Lee, what you're saying about the one-off World Tour showing up, Casey Schum proved wrong in one of the live finals he did. And Hunter Allen on stream, I can remember this, was like, who is this guy? This is some guy. Like, they don't know who this guy is. Like Lionel Sanders, and I don't remember Adam Zimmerman, who was, I think, pretty sure he was a national champion for the USA. Like, he's going against these guys. Who is this guy? So maybe.
Yeah, I think there's some, James is one who could sneak in and secretly. Zach Nair is someone, he races pro continental outside with Echelon, but there's some really sneaky good cyclist specific guys that have the ability to sneak in.
I just remember the during COVID when they brought in some of the World Tour teams, literally these little like World Tour races, and it was funny because I remember they raced up the Alp. And everyone was like, "Oh man, Chris Froome is gonna like kick butt up the Alp," and that one guy, the TTT world champ Rohan, he won every single one. They had to change the rules because they were like, the rules were like you could only have one guy.
It wasn't that on Be Cool? Was that on Be Cool or was it on Zwift?
No, it was on Zwift, and he was just riding up the Alp at 6.5 doing a TTT or time, time trial, and they had to change the rules because every team could only put two guys in, and you could only race two races because they were like, they saw what happened and they were like, this guy's going to show up. He's just going to time trial, win everyone, race.
It's going to be fun. I'm excited.
Well, yeah, that's exactly like Alan Lowe says, fair, but that was 6 years ago where 5.0 watts per kg was not common at all, and you could compete at the top level at 4.5. Yeah, there's definitely a lot more 5.0s going on now.
Very true.
That's true.
All right.
Not me.
Brian, what did you learn? And then we'll get out of here.
My biggest takeaway is the competitive side of the game, like the different people that are coming to it and how that's going to play into going forward, the casual versus competitive, and then the people kind of in between, like in me per se. Like I do plan to, but I'm not super locked into it as what you would be, BK. And how that's going to come into the Zwift Games, because you're going to have, I'm going to say the number is going to be 80,000 people total participating in this. If we can get 12,000 in ZRL and this is going to be open, I'm going to say 80,000 total participants. I mean, I'm going like super high with this, but I'm expecting big numbers out of
this.
You
mean 80,000 for
total participants?
Total participants for the Zwift Games.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. You heard it here first. I'm swinging high, but
that would be amazing.
That would be amazing. Men's, women's, right?
Yeah, because we had 10,000 people show up for an Andre Greipel, whatever.
Don't compare it to a group ride, man. Don't compare it to a group ride.
That was the group ride that broke the system.
Group rides are for people to get their kits and to kind of just chill and say that, dude. Okay, if people take it as a group ride, then they've lost their.
That was the
I'm not saying it's a group ride.
Hey, you get the bag of goodies at the end, dude.
Yeah,
we want to have people that are trying to like compete for the Zwift Games.
Yeah,
that ride was the ride that they made Zwift change their servers. There was 10,000 people signed up for that ride. I remember in the pen sitting there was 8,800 people. I didn't crash. I was one of the few that didn't crash, but you drafted for miles. It was insane. It was like the people were riding in the sky, in the ocean, doing circles. Yeah. There was 8,800
I didn't do that one, but I heard about it. I did the one with Philippe Gilbert, and it was pretty.
It's probably one of the best kit ever. It's like pure white skin suit. It's like the ugliest thing ever, but it's awesome. All
right. We've gone for an hour and a half. We're good. Yeah.
All right.
Very good.
Let's wrap it up. We have emergency response, first responder. It's got to go to work, and I got to get ready to go to my show. All right. On that note, play the music. We don't have the music yet. We'll play when we get it.
One day
Yeah.
we'll have music.
Yeah. For Lees of Reese, Brian White, I'm Brian Kellison. Thanks for hanging out, everybody. And we'll catch you on the
Awesome.
next one. All
Hey,
right.
see you
Take
guys.
care. Bye.